Let's get into this. We're looking at a story today that really takes you to the edge. Picture this. Waking up in a room stained with dog mess, being so dehydrated you're actually thinking about drinking toilet water.
Yeah, or huddling under a sink in a freezing jail cell just for warmth.
Exactly. And the source material, it's not your usual academic paper. It's a recovery manual. But it's built from, 45 years of intense personal experience?
Right, addiction, alcoholism, trauma, mental illness. The author's been through it all. And what's key here, I think, is they're not saying I'm a clinical expert.
No.
It's more like, I've survived this, I learned some things the hard way, and here's what worked for me. It's wisdom from the trenches, really.
Forged in fire. So our mission here in this deep dive is to unpack that raw, honest story and the practical ideas it offers. We want to pull out the key insights that honestly could help anyone.
Anyone facing challenges, wanting to build resilience, maybe just make better choices. Doesn't matter where you are on your path.
Think of it as like getting the core lessons from someone who's genuinely been to the precipice and found a way back.
And you see right away, it wasn't a solo journey. The acknowledgments, they thank this huge range of people and groups.
Yeah, AA, crisis intervention folks, law enforcement, NAMI.
Celebrate Recovery, Mobile Hope, even corrections officers. It shows this network of support. And his wife wrote the foreword talking about how his journey inspires others.
It really highlights that community aspect, the connection.
Absolutely. While the fight is personal, you don't do it alone.
So let's start with that personal fight, the author's story, because it really does set the foundation for everything else.
It starts incredibly young. He mentions trying alcohol at 3, a blackout at 8.
Wow, 8.
And then at 10, this devastating trauma, being groomed and molested. He uses this phrase, it just hits you, that it broke in half any happiness he'd known.
Broke in half, yeah, that's heavy. And the fallout was quick.
Frighteningly quick. By 13, so just 3 years later, he'd quit sports, was using illicit drugs, selling them too, and his drinking just skyrocketed.
The consequences piled up fast, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. 16 years old, he's hospitalized for almost 2 weeks. Severe depression, addiction, alcoholism. He fails 11th grade.
Watches his classmates graduate. Has to go back. That's got to sting.
For sure. He talks about this point after high school, just feeling completely lost, falling to his knees in despair, and that desperation led him to join the Marine Corps.
Looking for structure, maybe an escape?
Probably both. But the core problem, the drinking, it just followed him. Went from what he calls level 1 to a severe level 3.
And that led to discharge?
Yep. After failing inpatient treatment, which was his second hospitalization already.
And then comes that rock bottom moment we talked about. The dog-stained room, the dehydration.
That feeling of his mouth being coated with glass, considering drinking from the toilet, it's just so visceral.
Horrifying. But in that absolute low, something clicked.
That thought, something has to change. That had to be the turning point.
Which led him, incredibly, to a 12-step meeting that same night. Found sobriety there.
For 5 years, using the methods. But, and this is crucial, he says even sober, he was still battling severe depression.
So sobriety wasn't the magic fix for everything.
Not instantly, no. And then the next 8 years brought a different kind of chaos. This is when the bipolar 1 disorder really manifested, with severe manic episodes. He didn't understand it at first.
And the consequences sound just extreme.
Totally. 11 ER visits, 4 more hospitalizations, totaling 2 cars, being tased, handheld, and probed.
Pepper sprayed, restraints.
Straitjackets, padded rooms, 5-point restraints, arms, legs, torso headlocks. It's a litany of crisis interventions.
Plus 6 incarcerations, ending up in max security because of the manic behavior.
Right, and he describes that solitary psychiatric wing. The noise feeling like a nutcracker on his head, trying to explain he was bipolar, needed meds.
But it fell on deaf ears.
Yeah. He even faked a heart attack trying to get out, just got sent back. Carved a cross on his forehead in despair.
Which they saw as a suicide attempt.
Leading to even worse conditions. Paper suit, zipper removed, no mat, no blanket, in a cell that felt like 45 degrees.
Huddling under the sink. Chewing the mat seam open to crawl inside for warmth. It's just...
Yeah.
It paints such a stark picture of desperation.
But also incredible survival instinct, even in that state.
He connects all that horror back to his perspective now. He knows what it means to wrestle with madness.
To reach that precipice of sanity and somehow come back multiple times.
And he says those situations became his motivation to make better choices. He's honest, says he still deals with trauma, mild PTSD.
But helping others makes life worth living. He's not claiming to be perfectly healed.
Right. More like a long way from where I used to be.
Yeah.
And that journey, those lessons learned in the absolute worst conditions, That's what fuels the manual.
Exactly. Which brings us to the practical concepts he shares. Chapter 1, the 24-hour concept.
Okay, so what's the core idea here?
Well, it tackles something we all do, right? Our minds drift. We get stuck worrying about the past, things we can't change, or stressing about the future, things that haven't happened.
Yeah, it can feel completely overwhelming, like you're fighting on too many fronts.
Right. So the insight is simple but profound. We only ever live today, yesterday, gone, tomorrow. Not guaranteed. The only time we actually have any control is now.
Okay, that makes sense conceptually, but how do you, actually do that? Keep your mind from racing.
He suggests a physical anchor. Something simple. Touch your thumb and forefinger together. Touch your knee. Roll your eyes, whatever works for you.
Like a little physical cue.
Exactly. And you pair that physical action with the conscious thought, today. So when your mind starts wandering off to yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's anxieties, you do the action, think today, and pull your focus back.
A mental reset button triggered physically. What's the payoff?
It keeps your thinking manageable. Focus on winning today's battle, because that's the only one you can actually fight. The source even prompts you to, look at your own 24 hours.
Like, actually map it out.
Yeah, sleep, work, eat, sure, but also time on social media, TV, whatever. Do the hours add up? Where does the time go? Is there time getting into trouble or time just lost? It makes you think about the present time you have.
That's practical.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're working on staying present. But what about those sudden urges, those temptations? Chapter 2 talks about the first drink-drug concept.
This one is huge for breaking cycles. Substance use, sure, but really any harmful impulse. Yeah. The idea is that first thought, the craving, the bad idea just pops into your head. You're not responsible for that.
Okay.
But you are 100% responsible for what you do next, for the action you take.
Ah, right. So the technique is?
Play the tape forward. Think it all the way through. If I pick up that first drink or make that impulsive choice, where does it actually lead? Not where you hope it leads, but where has it led before?
And the warning is stark. You cannot safely predict what happens after that first one.
He uses this absolutely chilling example. A guy he met in jail just sobbing because he'd killed his wife in a drunken blackout. No memory of it.
Oh.
And the author's takeaway is blunt. Anything you think won't happen can. It's a serious warning.
So the source asks you to really identify your own triggers, your pitfalls, those escape routes that seem tempting but lead to trouble.
Exactly. Know your vulnerabilities before that first thought turns into action. Think through the consequences.
And often, those triggers are linked to our environment. Which brings us neatly to Chapter 3, people, places, and things.
Right. This is about doing recon on your own life, basically. Identifying who and what enables the negative behavior.
The author talks about finding other people who wanted to escape reality, feeling like he belonged, even though they were making terrible choices together.
Yeah, and the places, bars, the woods, anywhere away from most of civilized society where they could indulge, as he says, their madness.
And the things weren't just substances, right?
No, it was also mindsets, sex, money used wrongly, greed, selfishness, self-pity, things that kept him focused only on himself and the next escape.
So the solution is, what, cut ties?
Pretty much. Letting go of those negative chains, being super vigilant about who you hang out with, where you go, what you do, and actively seeking out positive people, positive places, positive activities instead.
Easier said than done sometimes.
Absolutely. The source makes you list your bad influences and places to avoid. But then it does something interesting. It asks about your favorite things. Favorite food, color, hobby, place. Seems like it's trying to help you identify your positive anchors, the things that bring genuine joy or peace, things you can lean into instead of the destructive stuff.
That's smart. Contrast the negative with the positive alternatives. Okay, speaking of negatives, Chapter 4 has a great title. Depression can't hit a moving target.
Yeah, this comes straight from his own struggle with severe depression, that feeling of being totally paralyzed, frozen in time.
Where doing anything feels impossible.
Exactly. And the big insight here, learned the hard way, is that inaction actually makes the depression and anxiety worse. It lets it take over. So the lesson is, you must keep moving.
Find ways to stay busy.
With a million positive tasks, as he puts it. It's not about pretending you're not depressed, but about actively fighting the inertia. Staying busy helps quiet the negative thoughts, takes the edge off the intensity. It's a countermeasure.
Like fighting back physically almost.
In a way, yeah. The source asks you about your own experiences. Sleep issues, trouble concentrating, socializing. What does a good day feel like? Then it asks, how can you use this moving target idea? What specific actions could you take today to keep moving when you feel stuck?
It really pushes you to have a plan. Okay, shifting from action to thought patterns, Chapter 5, the I statement.
This one's powerful, something he learned from someone else in recovery. The core idea is incredibly simple. Every thought that follows the word I, your mind automatically believes.
Whoa, okay, unpack that.
Think about how often we say negative things starting with I am, like I am useless, I am hopeless, I'm not good enough.
All the time, probably, without even realizing.
Right. And according to this insight, your mind just accepts those as fact. And then, as the source says, you will act as you think. Your internal story drives your behavior.
So the power lies in changing the story.
Exactly. Consciously replacing those negative I statements with positive ones, I matter, I can fix this, I can achieve my goals.
It's about actively building self-esteem. Takes practice, though, I imagine.
Definitely. The source makes you do it right then and there. It asks if you believe positive thinking helps, then makes you pick one negative thought you struggle with and write down 3 positive replacements to memorize.
That's direct action, making you practice the technique. And the foundation for all this change seems to be Chapter 6, personal responsibility.
This is presented as, like, the absolute turning point. The author is blunt. Nothing good happened for him until he stopped blaming others and accepted responsibility for his own problems.
The message is pretty stark. It was no one else's job to fix me. I had to fix myself.
Yeah. Ultimately, you're the only one responsible for your choices. He's clear that getting help, peers, professionals, is vital. They suggest, they guide.
But you have to do the work. Schedule the appointment, show up, follow through.
Right, because the power comes when you realize you can change your circumstances by focusing on your issues, controlling the only person you can control, yourself.
The source is really direct here too, isn't it? Asking whose thoughts and behavior you can change.
Super direct. Whose responsibility is your well-being? And the answer provided is just mine. It connects this to listing your good qualities and one you want to change. Taking responsibility for growth.
Okay, so that's the internal work. What about interacting with others? Chapter 7 introduces the half-hour rule.
This is an interesting observation about social dynamics. The idea is if you're feeling pretty good and you encounter someone who's really down, you have about 30 minutes.
30 minutes to do what?
To try and elevate their mood. If you can't lift them up in that time.
They'll drag you down.
That's his observation, yeah. They will drag you down to the way they are feeling. Their negativity can really impact your own state. It's not judging them, just recognizing the energy exchange.
So what do you do? Just avoid people who are down?
No, the solution offered is kindness. Simple, active kindness. Making eye contact, saying hello, offering a real smile, asking how someone is really doing, and then actually listening.
Small gestures.
But they can have a huge impact. The source says, it may just save their life. You just never know what someone's going through.
That's powerful.
The source prompts you to think about all the people you interact with daily. How does it feel when someone is kind to you when you're low? It reminds us most people are fighting something, even if they hide it, and asks, how can you use this rule to brighten someone's day?
Reframing kindness as a conscious strategy, that connects to Chapter 8, Wiser Words. A specific interaction that changed things.
Yeah, this was huge for the author. Happened while he was incarcerated that last time, in max security. The warden looked him right in the eye and said something incredibly simple but profound.
What was it?
The only difference between you and I are the choices we have made in our lives.
Wow. From the warden, in that setting.
No.
That must have hit hard.
Stopped him cold, he says. Made him think, what if? What if that's actually true? That maybe his situation wasn't just bad luck, but the result of his choices.
A fundamental shift in perspective.
Totally. And it led him to start making different choices. Good choices. Not overnight, but deliberately. One day at a time and one good choice at a time.
And that's how we rebuild things.
Exactly. The promise here is that recovery is worth it. You can fix problems if you're willing to make good choices. The source then asks you about good influences in your life and flips it. What kind of influence are you?
It all comes back to choices, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which is Chapter 9, My Opinion Choices.
This really hammers home the core message. Getting better, living a life worth living, it is up to you.
And the key phrase here.
Choices are the chains that will either set us free or deliver us to our destruction.
Chains. It's a strong image.
He uses this analogy. It's a bit graphic, but it makes the point. Imagine your absolute favorite food. Smell it, taste it in your mind. Now imagine being offered that, or a piece of moldy chicken covered in maggots.
Okay, yeah, graphic. The choice is obvious.
Right, and that's his point. He argues it's that simple when choosing well-being over self-destruction. If you can choose good food over rotten food, you can choose life. It is all about choices.
It's a brutally simple way to frame it. The source also have that list of would you rather questions, right? Motorcycle or boat? Cat or dog?
Yeah, seems unrelated at first, but maybe the point is just how fundamental choosing is. We do it constantly, about everything, big things, small things. It reinforces that choosing is a muscle we use all the time, so we can choose well in the moments that matter. And then it asks what you remember most, forcing another choice.
In the final chapter, chapter 10, Lost and Found.
This feels like bringing it all together. Reflecting on his childhood dreams, loving sports, hating drugs, dreams lost to bad choices.
But finding something valuable in the aftermath.
Exactly. Despite everything, he's still above ground and able to help the next person struggling, finding purpose in that, a calling, really.
And hoping his story helps others find their own way.
Yeah, offering that hope and emphasizing again, you don't have to do this alone. He points out there are literally millions of people in long-term recovery. Find them and ask for help.
Connection is key. He uses that Eagles lyric too, right?
Yeah, from Desperado. So oftentimes it happens that we live our lives in chains, and we never even know we have the key.
Perfect summary of being trapped by choices without realizing your own power. And the author's final word.
Success for only a few means failure for all.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive really underscores that recovery. Finding a life worth living after hitting the absolute depths, it is possible.
Yeah, and it's not about having some magic formula or being a clinical expert. It's about applying these hard-won lessons, practical tools, really.
And remembering you're not alone. Connection is vital.
Choices, connection, one day at a time. That key the Eagles sang about. Maybe it really is just the power of your own choices and reaching out.
So for everyone listening, thinking about this journey from utter despair to purpose, and that warden's stark truth about choices being the only difference. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What chains might be holding you back right now? And could unlocking them really start with just one different choice, one good choice today? Definitely something to think about.